Hey, Sam, I want to do a Daily Dan poll like right now. Are you enthusiastic about the midterm elections? Are you enthusiastic about the Republican Party heading into the midterm elections? I've got some accompanying audio that I'll be playing here in a little bit, but that was a topic of conversation. I think that there's still some people, that are frustrated with Donald Trump. I'm not really one of them. I mean, he says things that frustrate me sometimes, but really, I'm not Pollyannish. I am looking forward to the midterm elections because I think that things are going, by and large, okay. I mean, there's some things that have happened that I don't like, but I am enthusiastic going into the midterm elections. There is a big battle over the economy. 606 Nashville. What? Hold on. I love when I start.
Do it again.
No, you've done that too, Joe. No, you know what's going on? People are complaining about the camera, just real quickly. People are complaining about the camera.
Really?
And yeah, my camera, it goes blurry. Mm-hmm. It's going blurry and then focuses, blurry and focuses. So I was checking it out myself. Anyway, moving right along. So big battle over the economy in the Capitol building. This was yesterday. So this exchange went viral. CNN's Caitlin Collins and Caroline Levitt got into it over the state of inflation. So this is what it sounded like. Listen to this.
Mixed signals in terms of what that looks like.
But inflation is down from where it was. As measured by the overall CPI, it has slowed to an average 2.5% pace. This is down from what the president inherited. The president inherited 2.9% in January. Today it's at about 2.5%. So we're trending in the right direction with more to come. And I would remind you, when President Trump left office in his first term, inflation was 1.7%. And the previous administration jacked it up to a record high 9%. So again, in 10 months, the president has clawed us out of this hole. He's kept it low at 2.5%, and we believe that number is going to continue to decline, especially as energy and oil prices continue to decline as well.
Maybe it wasn't high under Biden. They're just saying it's not.
Well, nobody reported on it being high under Biden. My predecessor was standing at this podium, but now you want to ask me a lot of questions about it, which I'm happy to answer.
Go get him.
But I will just add, there's a lot more scrutiny on this issue from this press corps than there was. Well, and the previous administration said that too. My predecessor stood up at this podium and she said inflation doesn't exist. She said the border was secure. And people like you just took her at her word. And those were two utter lies. Everything I'm telling you is the truth backed by real factual data. And you just don't want to report on it because you want to push untrue narratives about the president.
I mean, listen, Caroline Levitt, a lot going on in that one soundbite. First of all, there's a lot of numbers being thrown around, and a lot of this is being politicized. These numbers are being politicized. If you are pro-Donald Trump, which I am, and I am conservative, I will find good things to say about the economy. That doesn't mean that they're not true. It just means that I'm looking at things from a certain perspective. So the CPI, and if you're anti-Donald Trump, you'll find negative things to say about the economy. But the CPI, remember, core inflation does not include food. It does not include energy. But back in March, April, and May, it was indeed around 2.4%, the CPI. Back in September, it was at 3%, and now here in December, it's around 2.92%. She is saying the average, so I guess that means the average across all of the months. But there's just a lot of numbers being thrown around. I'm going to be honest with you. I can't figure out how she's getting her numbers. But whatever. I'm not going to argue with Caroline Levitt. Because do you know what I know? I know that affordability is an issue right now. But do you know what else I know? I know that the Fed has cut tax rates. As far as jobs go, we've seen good growth with American-born workers actually working. The Fed is predicting strong GDP growth for 2026. Gas prices are at a 4-year low. Real wages are up. That's wages versus inflation. In other words, inflation might be up, but wages are rising beyond inflation. So wages are keeping up. That's all good. And so heading into 2026, when we are going to have the big, beautiful bill and the tax breaks and the deregulation and all that starting up in 2026, we are hitting 2026 at a full-on sprint. And so it's not it's not beyond the pale. I'm not being a partisan hack spreading propaganda, talking about some positive things about the economy. I do understand there is still things to work on. We still have a lot that we need to do, but I'm not going to be a doomsayer about the economy. And the other thing is, and I feel like I've said this once or twice before, but think about the Biden administration and that economy and how bad it was then. That's the whole point that Caroline Leavitt is saying. Where we had cringe Jean-Pierre trying to talk up 9.1% inflation and talking about how the border is secure. So there is this selective outrage. And I've always said that, you know, part of what defines you is what you're outraged by. And the media, they weren't nearly as passionate about asking these questions about the economy when it was Joe Biden and 9.1%. So for me, I totally agree with what Caroline Leavitt is saying. I'm not being Pollyannish about the economy. There is a lot of work to be done, but we are hitting the ground running for 2026. I will also bring up yet again about the record-breaking Black Friday and Cyber Monday.
You can give up certain products. You can give up pencils. Mm-hmm. Because under the China policy, you know, every child can get 37 pencils. They only need one or two. You know, they don't need that many. But you always need steel. You don't need $37 for your daughter. 2 or 3 is nice, but you don't need $37.
So you remember when I said that Trump needs to sharpen his talking points when it comes to the economy? The president talking about how you don't need 37 pencils, you only need 2 and all that other stuff. That didn't go over real well, and the Democrats have been, and some Republicans have been hitting him on that. Now, the president has been talking about this for a long time. I mean, there was an interview that he did with Meet the Press. I think it was Meet the Press back in March or April, where he was saying the same thing. He's been saying this. And basically what the president is saying, because they're attacking him on this, basically what the president is saying is that prices have been artificially low because we have all of these products that are made in China. They're flooding the market. And so what he's saying is that if we have these things made here in America with better trade deals and so forth, it'll be better for everyone. But the question is, and this is what Caroline Leavitt had to say about this because she was asked about this. But what he's saying is that with these better trade deals, it's going to be better for the American people because we'll have these pencils or whatever it is made here. And people will be working. And yeah, you may have to pay $1 or $2 more. But if it's made here, it's all going to balance out. Now, you want to talk about a debate over whether or not what kind of impact that'll have on the economy? That is a huge debate. Caroline Leavitt talked about this, and this is part of what she had to say when she was asked about this yesterday.
As the president has said it is, then why is he telling parents 2 weeks before Christmas that they should only buy 2 or 3 dolls for their children?
Look, what the president is saying is that if we want products made right here in America, if we want them to be made from American small businesses, which is a large part of the reason the president has effectively implemented tariffs, then we're going to have better quality products right here in the United States. Maybe you'll pay $1 or $2 more, but you will get better quality and you'll be supporting your fellow Americans by buying American. And that's what the president was saying. Again, with respect to affordability, every economic metric, Caitlin, and I wish you would report more on it, does in fact show that the economy is getting better and brighter than where it was under the previous administration. I will repeat, inflation as measured by the overall CPI has slowed to an average 2.5% pace. Real wages are increasing, roughly $1,200 for the average worker. Gas prices are down in almost every single state across the country. Again, in 22 states, it's below $275. You look at the tax cuts; those are going to go into effect next year. So the best is yet to come. The president is digging our country out of the economic hole that the previous administration put us in, and that's what he's talking about.
All right, so go take the Daily Dan poll. Are you enthusiastic going into the midterm elections? So for the Daily Dan poll, what are people saying on YouTube? Sam.
Are you enthusiastic about the midterm elections? I gave 3 options for response: yes, somewhat, and no. Yes is polling at 44%, somewhat at 28%, and no also at 28%.
All right, so I wouldn't say that is a ringing endorsement for enthusiasm heading into the midterm elections, and I get it. But to me, a lot of this goes right back to gas prices being at a 4-year low. And I keep taking great pains in saying that if you are somebody who is anti-Donald Trump, you can make the numbers say anything you want. If you are positive for President Donald Trump, then you can find things that are positive. But there's no way anybody can, I don't care how Trump derangement syndromed you are, there's absolutely no way that you can look at gas prices at a 4-year low and come back with something negative on that. So to me, I just think that there is so much to look forward to coming in, and we'll have to wait and see where the whole thing goes. It is 6:18 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and the Super Text line is open, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. There's a story. This is Kristi Noem. She was testifying yesterday. I thought this was interesting. She was testifying yesterday on Capitol Hill, and she got hammered by a guy named Representative Seth Magaziner or Ziner, don't know, Democrat out of Rhode Island. But this is very performative, and what we've been talking about with the Democrats is they are doing a lot of performative things these days. And this veteran, guy by the name of Se-Jun Park, she is accused of deporting him to South Korea, and she was asked about that, and the media is playing some games with this, and this is how that went.
Sir, we have not deported U.S. citizens or military veterans.
I don't believe you served in the military. I haven't either, but I think you and I can agree that as Americans, we owe everything to those who have served our country in uniform, particularly those who have served in combat. Do you agree with that?
Sir, I believe that people that are in this United States that are citizens have legal status here.
Madam Secretary, we are joined on Zoom by a gentleman named Se-Jun Park. He is a United States Army combat veteran who was shot twice while serving our country in Panama in 1989.
So they've got this guy, for you folks watching on Super Talk TV, I don't know about you, I do find the performative nature of this absolutely ridiculous. What is that thing, Sam? Is that like a tablet that they've got him on? One of his aides has him on, it looks like just a little tablet, and he's holding it up, and he's over his right side, and Se-Jun Park is just watching. And this Democrat wants Kristi Noem to thank him for his service. Do you see how silly this is?
Like many veterans, he struggled with PTSD and substance abuse after his service. He was arrested in the 1990s for some minor drug offenses, nothing serious. He never hurt anyone besides himself, and he's been clean and sober for 14 years. He is a combat veteran, a Purple Heart recipient.
Right.
He has sacrificed more for this country than most people ever have. Earlier this year, you deported him to Korea, a country he hasn't lived in since he was 7 years old. Will you join me in thanking Mr. Park for his service to our country?
I mean, it's just so stupid. It is performative. And they got this guy up live from South Korea, and he's just sitting there on a couch not saying anything. And this Democrat is like, will you join me in thanking him for his service?
I'm grateful for every single person that has served our country and follows our laws.
Can you please tell Mr. Park why you deported him?
Every one of them needs to be enforced.
But you understand that many veterans struggle with PTSD, many veterans struggle with substance abuse challenges. This man took 2 bullets for our country.
Right.
Will you have broad authority, by the way, as secretary, to issue humanitarian parole, to do deferred action. Will you commit to at least looking at Mr. Park's case to see if you can help him find a pathway back to this country that he sacrificed so much for?
I will absolutely look at his case, but I want you
Thank
to
you.
remember that
Madam
our
Secretary, the
programs
man
And listen,
behind you, please stand up.
He absolutely just blows right over what she's trying to say. But here's the thing. That dude was not deported. He's self-deported. Now, he's self-deported because he was under threat of deportation, but there is so much more to this story, and I've got it coming up, because he was ordered deported back in 2010 under Obama. And he's been here ever since.
Better and better, yeah.
Right? So he went through legal proceedings in 2010. So he went to, he fought. I don't remember where he fought, but he fought somewhere, and he took a couple of bullets for us. And so he had some drug charges. He had some gun charges. He broke a bunch of crimes. They say it was because of his PTSD. In 2010, an immigration judge issued a removal order based on his drug convictions, revoking his green card under laws classifying certain offenses as deportable, even nonviolent ones for non-citizens. The case originated under the Obama administration, but remained unresolved for years. So when Biden was in office, he could have asked for his green card to be reissued. He could have applied for citizenship. He did nothing. And so Trump comes in and mass deportation begins, and they deport him. Because all they know is that this is a guy with a revoked green card who has committed a bunch of crimes. And so he was going to be deported or under threat of deportation. And so he just self-deported to South Korea. So the Democrats are lying about the circumstances with which this guy ended up in South Korea.
And his understanding. In an NPR article, he admits for a long time, citizenship was not a priority because he did not fully grasp the consequences of remaining a non-citizen, which is what happens when you have soft on immigration policies that don't enforce the law.
Whose fault is that?
Democrats.
Yeah, it's Democrats' fault. And it's the fault of this South Korean, who, by the way, he had been here since he was 8 or 9 years old. So it sounds really bad. And the Democrats, and you heard the performance by the Democrats, and all over. If you see this story, you will see that the Trump administration deported a veteran. Deported him back to South Korea. That's not even close to the truth.
Well, and because he's self-deported, does he not also get kind of the fast pass on the way back in?
Actually, yeah, he should. He should get the fast pass. I wonder if he got $1,000 or $2,000, whatever it is, $1,000 or $2,000.
Probably did.
That'll go a long way in South Korea. Jonathan Fahey is standing by, but first, we are playing our own bumper music from now till Christmas. This hour, it is Joan's turn to pick the bumper music. Joan, what did you pick?
I picked a very favorite song, and I know this time you are going to love it.
All right, go.
As in love.
All right. Yeah, Sam? Got anything for this, Sam?
Go ahead. Criticize it. Go ahead.
I love this song, and I love this version, because Carrie Underwood's got a beautiful voice.
Is this Carrie Underwood?
Yeah.
Joan, you've put me in a terrible position.
You just can't criticize today, can you now, Dan?
I can't say anything negative about Carrie Underwood. They'll come at my house with torches and pitchforks. And all that.
Her husband's a former Preds captain. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I would admit.
Not a good idea.
Carrie Underwood does no wrong.
Besides that, this is just an amazing, crazy cool song. When you think about the point of view of Mary.
Yeah.
And having, the godsend baby. Mm-hmm. Oh, my goodness. What a cool song.
Carrie Underwood, she can do no wrong.
Yeah.
Now.
So there you go, Dan.
Now, the federal government, on the other hand, and that's where we pick up with Jonathan Fahey joining us on Super Talk 99.7. Boy, I don't know where to start. I woke up this morning or last night, Jonathan, and they had released Kilmar Abrego Garcia. So Have you been able to figure out what justification this, they're calling her an activist judge. I believe that she is an activist judge. But from what legal framework is this judge, why did this judge order him to be released?
Well, the judge, I think, putting aside sort of the politics and the policy over it, this judge, has essentially said that the government doesn't have a current removal order because it was withheld, and they didn't trust the government's efforts to deport him to third-party countries and had a lot of questions about, the way they were going about it. But I think the problem with this judge is, again, trying to, involve herself in immigration policy. And I think one thing this administration can do on this, because remember, his removal to El Salvador was withheld because an immigration judge determined it would be too dangerous for him there because he's a gang member and would get attacked by other gangs.
Yes.
But what DHS can actually do is reopen the immigration proceeding and say the circumstances have changed, meaning in El Salvador, it's not nearly the dangerous place that it was back when he was initially ordered deported and had it withheld, which I believe was like 2019-ish or somewhere around there, because it's substantially safer. It's far safer than virtually anywhere in the United States right now. So if the idea from that initial immigration judge was to keep him safe, then, this would actually be a safer move for Mr. Maryland man, because El Salvador is safer than Prince George's County, Maryland, which is where he's from, which isn't safe at all. So, but I think it really is just activist judges, these groups like, ACLU and all of these groups will fight every deportation because they want to keep as many illegal aliens in the country as possible. The Trump administration can also appeal this, where they've had very good luck in the appellate courts because they tend to be, I think, focused more on the law and give a lot more deference to the president and the executive powers. But ultimately, we have this guy, a gang member, alleged human trafficker, out on the streets again because of some activist judge doesn't want him to get deported. It's ultimately disgraceful, and this guy's, a hero of the Democratic Party. They'll probably have him, if they don't nominate him for something, he'll probably speak at their next convention. It's so shameful.
Oh,
but
Jonathan,
ultimately, he's not going home. He's not going to stay.
They are going to have a statue, I'm sure, somewhere in Maryland, just like George Floyd, right? I guarantee you that's going to happen.
George Floyd, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Real quick. So we know that in 2022, he was caught trafficking a bunch of illegal aliens. And so they ultimately, I'm sure you know this story. You and I have spoken about it. But 2022, here in Tennessee, he was trafficking a bunch of illegal aliens, and he got pulled over. And it was obvious to the troopers that pulled him over. He is trafficking a bunch of these guys. He got like 8 or 9 or whatever it was in a car. And they phoned the Biden administration and the FBI, and they told him to just let him go. And so they let him go. Here's my question, though, and this may be a curveball, but that was in 2022. Can we request that he come back to Tennessee and face charges of human trafficking, because he was never charged before, but all that evidence is still there. The video evidence in the report is still there.
Right, yeah, and he's still charged with it in Tennessee. So, yeah, he's going to have to face the music for those charges. And you're absolutely right, which is such a good point. They basically caught him in the act, and the Biden administration had no interest, because we know what the Biden administration overall immigration policy was, which is open borders and amnesty, but also the Department of Justice had no interest in prosecuting things that weren't politically beneficial, and things like human trafficking weren't. So it's so shameful. Yeah, he can still face the music, go to prison on this, which I think he should. In a weird way, the Trump administration sort of tried to do him a favor by kicking him out. So if he gets convicted, he'll get kicked. He will serve some time, probably a significant amount of time, and then he'll get kicked out. So in a weird way, the judge might not have done him the favor that she thinks she did. But again, it's just like the Democratic Party as a whole, which is not a bad strategy if you think about it. They fight every deportation, even these, gang members or anything else. So then it just makes it so hard to deport anyone, and they keep all of the illegals here because their ultimate goal is to make them citizens. And I think everyone knows that, particularly in light of that New York Times report, coming out, what was it, last week, that, okay, they knew, which we all knew they knew, but it was just sort of interesting seeing it sort of in black and white. And, so that's the goal here. Every deportation, they will fight like dogs to keep everyone here.
Yeah, and we were joking earlier, Jonathan, about this concept. I heard it somewhere. I don't know where I heard it, but it's like Trump opposition syndrome, like Trump derangement syndrome, but Trump opposition syndrome, where the Democrats and the media will just automatically take whatever the opposite position is of Donald Trump, and they end up taking, the most ridiculous of stances. For example, the blowing up of the narco terrorist boats, and even the double tap. I believe that most Americans don't give a crap about, because these are narco terrorists. I believe the Trump administration did their due diligence, and now the Democrats, of course, not shocking, they're trying to go after Pete Hegseth, and they're more than likely they're trying to get him out of office. They're trying to do whatever they can to go after not only Hegseth but other folks within the Trump administration. So this is something that they're going to be continuing to do. Did you watch any, and I was just talking about this in the previous segment, did you watch any of this testimony of Kristi Noem yesterday as it related to this guy, this guy in South Korea, the guy from South Korea?
Yes, I saw clips of it and saw some of it live. Yeah, it was pretty stunning and striking that, the way it was characterized, and then when the truth comes out about this is, again, another one of these situations where they try to portray the DHS as deporting some, a veteran who's done all these wonderful things, and leave out the punchline, if you will, of all the bad things he's done, and he was not a citizen. Yeah, it's
right.
So embarrassing watching the Democrats.
Well, I've got a question about that. So, Jonathan Fahey, this guy, and again, I was talking about this previously in the hour, but he was here, and he was here for years, this South Korean. He came here when he was 8 years old. He was a military member and so forth. But it was the Obama administration in 2010, an immigration judge issued a removal order based on his drug convictions, revoking his green card under laws classifying certain offenses as deportable, even nonviolent ones for non-citizens. The case originated under the Obama administration, but remained unsolved for years. And so this, again, he was a veteran and he fought for our country. But what I find interesting, though, is that he had this order under Joe Biden. He could have applied for citizenship. He could have applied to get his green card back, but he chose not to. Instead, what he decided to do was self-deport all the way back to South Korea. And so they're leaving out the part where this guy just didn't take care of this. Is what I'm saying. He chose not to take care of business, this Se-Jun Park. And couldn't he have just reapplied for a green card, or couldn't he have just applied for citizenship under Biden, who no doubt would have given it to him?
Yeah, he could have done that. And this idea that, they leave out, the criminal record and all of these things with so many of these people. And yeah, he didn't apply. And the default should be, if somebody is trying to come here legally, the default should be, if they don't do it right, they don't come in. And
Yep.
that should be, it's common sense, and it shouldn't be easy. And he had multiple opportunities. And like you said, he was ordered deported and self-deported. So it was like, Trump didn't do anything here. And what's another really big scandal, and sort of in the, back to the Mayorkas world, when they were, even the people being ordered deported, they weren't enforcing it. So there were so many people, I think the number's over 1 million people ordered deported that just stayed. So it's like they made our immigration courts such a complete joke. So you go through a process, you either get legal status or you're ordered deported, but the bottom line is you stay either way under the, Biden-Mayorkas regime. And that was one of the big scams when they were bringing in all the, quote unquote asylum seekers, because Mayorkas would say he would go on these shows and say, well, if they don't get asylum, they'll be sent back, and he knew that wasn't true because he knew the people that were getting order deported when he was in office, being as DHS secretary, weren't even being deported. It's so cynical, and so many takeaways from that hearing just show the big, the gulf between where the Democrats are and the American people are in this immigration issue. I mean, the Democrats don't want anyone being deported. I mean, they will defame law enforcement. You saw Benny Johnson, not quite the same thing, but they, talking about the National Guard member murdered. It's like they are just so callous and indifferent to people that are protecting us, putting their lives on the line, and they just have no regard for them. But if somebody were to say something about an illegal alien, if you use the term illegal alien, their heads would spin. You have to use the most perfect euphemism. I think it evolved into newcomer at the end of the Biden administration.
Yeah.
And it's just so embarrassing. And these leaders don't represent the American people. The illegal aliens are probably one of the most powerful constituencies of the Democratic Party. They have far more representation than the average American worker.
Let me ask you this, just changing topics. Letitia James. So once again, we were talking earlier about how she's doing the happy dance because it seems like she has escaped the justice yet again. So the Justice Department failed again to indict New York Attorney General Letitia James. What is going on?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because at least one, we know she was indicted the first time before it was dismissed by a judge. And then the second two, number 2 and number 3, she was not. And from what, the public available information actually makes this case seem quite strong. So I am curious what the issue is. Is it a political issue with the grand jury just not wanting to indict for political reasons? Are there deficiencies in the case that I'm not aware of? Because it really does seem like, at least my understanding, she claimed this residence was going to be something she would use as like a second home, not rented out, and she in fact never lived there and rented it out. So that seems like a clear lie, and she also financially benefited from the lie, which makes it worse. But I don't really understand. I mean, the Justice Department has a couple roads they can take. I mean, one, they could just walk away from the case. 2, they can try to re-indict it again, because the grand jury, it's not just one grand jury. Typically, there's multiple grand juries meeting. They'll probably, they could have several grand juries meeting each month, and they're also impaneled at different times throughout the year. So they could re-indict it with another grand jury. They could maybe get more information. They could have gotten some feedback from the grand jury to say, we have a real issue with this or that. So they could investigate or shore up issues with the case. The other thing is they could appeal the judge's ruling that dismissed the case, saying Lizzie Halligan was not properly appointed. And then if they win that appeal, that first indictment comes back in, it's basically reinstated. So there's a lot of options. I'm not sure what they'll take. My gut feeling is they might walk away from this if they've tried twice and it hasn't been indicted, but I just don't, you need to know more before you kind of make that conclusion.
Hey, Jonathan, I have a question for you about this. Is there an issue with the DOJ and the places that they're choosing to impanel grand juries? Because Alexandria is clearly a very blue area, and Norfolk isn't much better. Why aren't they doing this in areas where they know they can get an indictment handed up?
Right, that's a good question, because Alexandria and Norfolk are both in the Eastern District of Virginia, meaning that judicial district. So you could, typically you would indict the part of the district, meaning where the crime occurred. Like if Northern Virginia would be Alexandria, where that case is would be Norfolk. So I do not know the strategic reason for that, but you're absolutely right. You could have a politically, not just a, sort of liberal-leaning grand jury, but a very politically aware grand jury up in Northern Virginia. Everyone follows politics. So, yeah, you do think that strategically you might want to put it down in the Norfolk grand jury and have them look at that, because they might look at that with a different lens, meaning less political and more sort of on the facts. And also people might be more offended by somebody, that's, in fact, quite wealthy, that's taken advantage of the banking system and making money off of it by lying when they all, in fact, had to tell the truth on their mortgage application. So, yeah, I think that's a really good point. To see where they're indicting it, and they could go back down to Norfolk. But I do think you get this. It's hard to take politics out of any of these cases,
right,
to have people really look at the facts. So I don't know if that's the reason, but it certainly could be one.
All right, Jonathan Fahey, always great to have you on. How can people find you on X?
John for Fairfax.
All right, John for Fairfax. Thank you, Jonathan Fahey. Always great to have you on. If you can't find him, follow me at Dan Mandis Show. Joan, I'm at like 11,900 or so X followers.
Oh.
I'm this close to 12,000. I came this close to begging people on Red Eye Radio last night, please follow me. I'll take sympathy follows just to get the 12,000.